Hello and welcome to Rajya Sabha Television. You're watching The Big Picture with me, Frank Pereira. It is now 3 months since the Prime Minister demonetized high denomination notes, but the Union government and the opposition are still at loggerheads over the issue. That is not the only issue that the opposition and the ruling party have not agreed upon. Of late, we've seen that political parties are finding it extremely difficult to reach a consensus. Why is bipartisanship eluding Indian politics? Is it affecting the centrality of Parliament? That is what we're going to discuss on this edition of The Big Picture. Joining me on the program today are Professor Mridula, Mukherjee, historian, Mohammad Salim, Lok Sabha MP CPIM, Vadakkan, spokesperson of the Congress, and we'll also be joined by Sudesh, spokesperson of the BJP. I have two politicians on the panel today. I'll be joined by one more as well. So I'm going to request the politicians not to politicize the issue, but let's analyze the subject as such. You know, why bipartisanship eludes Indian politics. Mr. Salim?
You're discussing a political issue and saying not it should be apolitical is very strange. But it's a serious issue, and I think, of course, politicians are to be blamed. But you see, the major issues that is plaguing Indian politics, society, economy. How can you expect a consensus, even within a political party, within a group of political party which fought together, formed a coalition government, NDA? Do you have the unanimity on a question of demonetization? You find Shiv Sena walking to the Rashtrapati Bhavan. You see, everyday statements are coming up, and the BJP is having another position. So, before this, first the same political party, one single political party as a political unit, they must be united on a basis of some economic, social and political issues. That's the basis of the political party. Now, if you have political parties on the basis of caste, communal questions, on temple issues, on masjid issues, so okay, on religious issues are united. But whenever economic issues comes, so various segments of the society will represent very differently. Now, what's happening in Tamil Nadu, post Jayalalitha? So, the same political party which is ruling successfully to some extent, but they divided a lot. So, how come you expect that in Parliament all the political parties will speak in the same voice when the Prime Minister, instead of seeking cooperation, instead of sharing his views, he just disappeared from Parliament, session after session. Last session, not this session he was there, but the comment he made, the standard he took to such a low. How can you expect, are all political parties just thumped a desk? His comment in Rajya Sabha yesterday on former Prime Minister, that itself says that the ruling party or the ruling group is not interested in seeking cooperation from the main opposition. Forget about the smaller opposition political parties. And that is so in every day in Lok Sabha we are seeing it. So, of course, Parliament is a system where in a democratic system is a fully proved, may not be fully proved, but time tested till now is the best opportunity where various shades of opinion can be discussed, debated and decided by the majority. But if you don't have an opportunity of this democratic atmosphere of discussion, and if you don't have an ear to listen to the other views, if you don't have a tendency to share your opinion, then how come that all of a sudden one fine morning all political parties will come together and a bipartisan will be developed? So you are destroying the Parliament as an institution. You are destroying the democratic rights not only of the people, but not only in Parliament. You see, I have come from Bengal. So if the ruling party do not ensure a simple, a minimum democratic atmosphere where other shades of opinion can also be reflected.
Sure, fair enough. Point taken.
So that is the main challenge.
Sure. Point taken. I'm going to take that point that you're making to Sudesh Verma of the BJP, who's joined us on the program as well. Sudesh Verma, you know, the point that Mohammad Salim is making is the fact that the atmosphere is not conducive enough to have a bipartisan, approach in Parliament today, and that the BJP or the ruling party should ensure that that kind of a conducive atmosphere prevails in Parliament.
Frank, I'll begin from where the last speaker spoke about with reference to the remark of Prime Minister Shri Narendra Modi ji about raincoat remark. You see, if you go by normal, English literature, then you will say that this is one of the most brilliant comparison given. Is very intelligent metaphor actually used, that when corruption is raining from all across, a person is able to hide his corruption using a raincoat. Taking bath in raincoat is a beautiful comparison. It should be taken in a humorous way. Where is the insult to the former Prime Minister? That too, who is talking? Mr. Rahul Gandhi, who himself insulted the Prime Minister when he tore that ordinance in full press conference. That was the biggest insult heaped on the Prime Minister, because they had taken the decision. Sonia Gandhi ji had taken the decision, but he wanted to claim moral virtue. He wanted to score brownie point. He insulted the Prime Minister. There was no insult to Prime Minister made by Sri Narendra Modi ji today. The Congress and other opposition parties are insinuating. You know what is the reason? The reason is that these people, and also a section of the media, they have not been able to digest the fact that Narendra Modi ji has defeated all negativism that they came out with during the campaign of 2014 Lok Sabha elections, and because they have not been able to digest it, every time Narendra Modi ji says something, they just try to create an issue when there should be nothing. You see, going by their strength, they should realize for the first time after 30 years, a party has been voted to power on its own majority. So it needs some respect, such a mandate of the people. But these people are not allowing Parliament to function. You see, on the issue of demonetization, the Prime Minister wanted to speak. These people did not allow him to speak, because their agenda was not to discuss. Their agenda was to make an issue outside Parliament and try to gather whether people are actually with us or not. They found that people were with us. They came out with a big bun, but that did not succeed. And people were with us on demonetization.
I'm going to take the point that you're making to...
There was a leader who was taking a decision. So the issue is, Frank, the issue is that if they are finding fault with everything the Prime Minister is saying, they should also look within themselves. Prime Minister is a democratic person.
Fair enough.
He has fought against emergency which was imposed by Mrs. Gandhi in 1975.
I think you made your
democratic
point.
Norms.
You
don't
made your point.
Democratic norms.
Let me bring in the others into the picture as well. Let me bring in the others into the picture as well. Tom Vadakkan, you cannot use disruptionary tactics and expect the government to play ball.
Well, who's talking? They started the entire game plan. If you look at their earlier record when they were in the opposition, today they're giving us lectures on how to behave in Parliament. Ask them a few questions. I heard him. I am forced to take this comment because I was not intending to reply at this juncture on this. See, before I get into that phase, let me tell you something. Each party has its own manifesto. The solution to this kind of problem, which is right on the table today, is that when they have different manifestos, there must be a machinery which must say these are national interests, and they must be monitored as in terms of an accountability. Wherein, if there is a common factor in we are all planning to do this, I think there should be a cut-off line here. These are the principal issues. That is one way of looking at it. Now let me answer that question about the great literary trend that he talked about and sense of humor. What I want to ask the BJP spokesman, is the Prime Minister using a different washroom than what Manmohan Singh ji was using? They're staying in the same house. Earlier it was the Prime Minister of India, Dr. Manmohan Singh. Today it is the Honorable Prime Minister. Does he use a raincoat? What kind of literary issues are you trying to make of? I mean, here's a blessed remark which is below the belt, which no Prime Minister of this country has ever spoken. There is a level at which a Prime Minister must speak. But if he comes down to this level, what do you expect from the opponents? Sit there, clap that he's done a great thing? He's beaten Shakespeare at it. Is that what you're trying to say?
Okay.
Is that the sense of humor that you're trying to derive?
Can I ask you something?
And then you say...
Can I ask you something? Can I ask you something? Before I come to you, Sudesh, before I come to you, I want to bring in my other guest into the panel as well, into the picture as well. You know, Professor Mukherjee, the politicians are going to continue to do this. Okay, but in the process, what's happening is that the discourse is reaching a low. Parliament of India, like our programs that we've done in the past, Samvidhan is a very, very good example of how parliamentary debates took place, you know, when post the independence era. Are you afraid somewhere that the centrality of Parliament is being affected by what the politicians are doing in Parliament today?
There's no doubt about it. I think yesterday what happened was a matter of, I think, great pain, I think, to the country as a whole. I do not believe that anybody, including the most uneducated of our people, would appreciate this kind of humor or think that it is humor. It was not humor. It was hitting below the belt. And it is highly avoidable, I think, for people who are occupying positions of leadership, where they are role models to people in this country, especially to the youth, that they should use such language. There are other ways of making your political points, and I think it is very necessary. As a member of the public, I would certainly like to say that I was appalled and shocked and pained more than anything else, as a citizen, that my country, my parliament, the debate is stooping to this kind of a low. Secondly, what I would say is that I am not saying that on every issue there has to be a consensus. Parliament is meant for difference and debate, sharp debate. The time you are talking about, what was shown in Samvidhan, and afterwards and before, even during the times of the British, when Gokhale used to get up in the Imperial Legislative Council and demolish the British arguments, but they would have no leg to stand on. But there was no indecency. There was no rudeness, there was no shrillness in that debate, but it was solid. I mean, everybody knew that you had been beaten black and blue, and yet it was done in a completely civilized manner, because that is also what they wanted to train our people, that this is how you behave. This is how arguments are won, with solid facts and good manner of presentation, and not through going to a low level. Secondly, I would say, as far as consensus building is concerned, I think in this country we have had a very fine tradition of even people with huge majorities like Nehru had in his time, and not just majorities in parliament, but great prestige in the country, not trying to use that majority power, but to try and build a consensus, try and take everybody along, including your opponents. So there is that tradition, which I think is a very healthy tradition, which we should try to keep. However, there can be times when there can be no consensus because opinions are very divided. Fine, the parliament rules allow for that. Ultimately, you will win or lose by majority. That does not mean, and this especially applies to the ruling party.
Sure.
It is very clear in the rules and the norms of parliament that the first responsibility to run the parliament in a dignified way, try and build consensus, is with the ruling party.
Sure.
So they cannot push on the blames to others and say, you did this when you were in power. You are now in power and you are accountable and you are answerable.
Fair enough, point taken. Yes, Sudesh Verma, go ahead.
Frank, I think since you have majority of the panels opposed to our view, you should be giving me time when
I
there
am.
is something.
That's why I'm giving you more time.
You
Go
see,
ahead.
when Prime Minister gave this raincoat remark, it is the most biting humor one can imagine. Imagine the Prime Minister taking a bath in the bathroom with all the water falling, and he is in a raincoat. It's a beautiful humor, and this is about corruption, about the Congress. Congress did maximum corruption during the 10 years of UPA regime, and Prime Minister was Dr. Manmohan Singh. How can you absolve him to be the most honest person just because he belonged to Oxbridge institution? Doesn't matter. So it doesn't mean that a good economist need to be a good Prime Minister as well. He was the minister in charge for coal when coal scam happened. You know what the Supreme Court said about the CBI then? It's a case parrot. And it was the greatest indictment to the government. Still you are going to tom-tom about the Prime Minister being very honest. This is not acceptable. The real issue, Frank, is, and you would analyze this deeper, you would realize that Mr. Narendra Modi does not belong to Lutyens Delhi. He cannot be co-opted by vested interest. He is doing what he thinks is good for the country. Those who think he is taking the right step for the country should come along. And those who are not taking, they can go along with their vested interest. The Prime Minister is not bothered. If there is a need for consensus, Prime Minister will definitely build a consensus. He has taken the initiative a number of times. It is the Congress that did not cooperate. All the time they are looking for issues not to allow the Parliament to function. Can this be an issue that you have criticized something about the Prime Minister, until you apologize, we will not allow the House to function.
Your point is
we will
taken.
not allow the Prime Minister to speak. This is the biggest insult to Prime Minister.
The other panelists want to respond to what you're saying. Yes, Mr. Salim.
Now, listening to Mr. Sudesh, I can find out it's not just a slip of tongue or just a sense of humor or oratory skill of the Honorable Prime Minister. Rather, it depicts the mindset, and that's why one and all from the BJP is going gaga that, okay, brilliant stroke. I said, normally this metaphor or imagery we use either from proverbs of English, great English literature and language do not have such proverb, fables, idioms, or then some quotations from somewhere. So where is this? Where is the similarity? Even in Indian language? No. The Swadeshi people are asking from which literature you have got this analogy. One. Secondly, metaphor you can use as a poetic, that license is there, from your own imaginary. That means that the mindset took him to the bathroom, okay, in the background of this Swachh Bharat. But we don't want to spoil our argument in this. It is rather very shocking that instead of saying sorry, apologize, this parliament, this session, you worked, just now it adjourned in Lok Sabha, so you are telling parliament is not functioning. That means you are made for that.
Did you ask Rahul Gandhi to say sorry?
Please,
you ask Rahul Gandhi to say
have a decent debate. Have a decent debate.
Hold on, Mr. Salim. Hold on. Mr. Verma, wait.
No, did you ask Rahul Gandhi to say sorry?
I've given you 2 chances to speak already. I've given you 2 chances to speak already. Mohammad Salim is speaking for the second time. I'm going to come back to you. Don't worry, you're going to have your say on the program as well. Mr. Salim, complete your point.
This interruption brings me to another point. A person sitting in a Lutyens Bungalows office and is defending another person who is having all the facilities of the best of the Lutyens Bungalow in Delhi and criticizing that they do not belong to the Lutyens Bungalow culture, and that is as if
I take that
speaking from the streets of the instead they have brought down the level of parliament to a street debate. This is what not as expected.
But Mr. Salim,
not first time.
No, but aren't the other political parties also equally responsible?
I'm coming to it. I said that means I think naturally the clap is not in one hand.
Yes, you need 2 hands to clap.
So I'm saying overall, what Professor Mridula Mukherjee says that over the years this going down. I'm not trying since 2014. No, because of BJP. No.
How do we improve the situation?
No, that's the point. So lead by the example. So you set the example, then you ask your followers to follow. Had it been other way around, the same Mr. Sudesh would have said, echoed that view if Prime Minister set up a standard, higher standard, because the followers are just following. So instead of blaming Rahul on this, so we are going to do this, that is not Parliament. He did it in a press conference. I'm not defending Rahul. So what kind of analogy you are telling us? It's not Prime Minister. Rahul Gandhi was not a Prime Minister.
Sure.
So if one wrong, 2 wrongs cannot make one right.
So when you are
this. That's what we are supposed to.
Fair enough.
If you are serious, then when Parliament functions well, you should have been, grateful to the opposition. This first time in the history of Parliament in recent periods, I am for 25 years here, that UP election is there, but despite that Parliament is functioning. Normally there is history whenever bigger states are going for election.
Sure.
So you have a lot of things coming up in the Parliament. But people want to have the decent debate. And so instead of taking it to a higher level, why you are bringing down? Earlier date, Lok Sabha, our Prime Minister referred to Khargeji with some kutta and all those things.
Okay.
So what kind of language are you using?
Okay, points taken. Sudesh Verma, the Prime Minister and the government, the onus is on the government to take everybody along, to carry everybody else, piggy bank, and take them forward. Do not take unilateral decisions. Do not take decisions that are going to hurt the others, is what Mr. Salim is saying.
Frank, you see, this government has been voted to power to do legislative business, to do things differently. Modi ji has rightly said that he is not come in the government to be another Congress. We are the agent of transformation. We have got the mandate for that. It's not an end all for us to be in power. Power is an instrument to change. This is what we are trying to do. Some people may not like, those who have vested interest. We accept that. And we try to build consensus wherever there is necessity. But at the same time, a recalcitrant opposition that does not allow you to function, how are you going to resolve the issue? That is the issue. We have tried to accommodate, we have sat with them, we have discussed with them, they said something else in the meeting, when they come out in Parliament, they only want to give messages to people, knowing fully well that people are with us. This is not the way to mobilize people's opinion. Come and debate with us on facts. We want to debate. We are not shying away from debate. Anything you want to debate, but you cannot put a gun on the head of the government and say, do it this way, otherwise we will not debate.
Okay.
This is not done.
Okay, yeah, I'm going to come to you, Tom Vadakkan. Mohammad Salim, is there any truth in what is being said that, at the meeting you say you decide on something else, but in Parliament you do something else?
It's totally wrong. neither Mr. Verma is not privy to what...
You're a member of parliament, that's why I'm asking you this question.
That we discuss. First is, that's why we have a parliamentary affairs ministry. So normally during parliament, during intersession, and when starting is there, then you hold a meeting with the oppositions. Then chair also can convene meetings. Then Prime Minister also can take initiative. We have seen during GST, Prime Minister invited for some breakfast meeting or something to the Congress leaders, and somehow they develop that. That means what Professor Mridula Mukherjee, again I am referring, take the initiative. Government should take the initiative.
Sure.
Now when days after days Parliament was not functioning, there was no meeting neither by the presiding officer in Lok Sabha, the Speaker, nor by the Parliamentary Affairs Ministry initiative, nor by the Prime Minister. That means you are saying we are interested in discussing, but you have never wanted demonetization issue is debated. Once
I give a quick rebuttal to this.
and
No, I'm coming back to you. I've given you the maximum amount to speak in the program today, so I'm going to come back to you.
Something. And who told you that
Salim,
opposition has to rebut the line of the government?
You know,
They have the right
I am
to
the dog, so I have to give a rebuttal.
Please remember what everyone has said, and I'm going to give you a chance to respond again later on. But Tom Vadakkan wanted to make a point. Yes, go ahead, please.
I heard Mr. Verma, he said that if you're with us, fine, or you can go your way. My way or the highway. The issue here is, what have they discussed? This whole exercise of running parliament is about a huge PR exercise. This is not the first parliament which they claim to have the majority, but I don't want to go into statistics in terms of who voted for whom. But point I'm making is, this is not the last parliament that we are going to have, God forbid. There is going to be parliament, there are going to be days beyond Mr. Modi. Don't
But which way is the discourse going to go?
Don't create a precedent where you set an example of this kind of a situation. Because people are watching you. People have given you a mandate for one term, not for lifetime. Do what you can. You say you are here to reform. My request is reform, okay, but don't deform the civilized society. By doing what you're doing, by reducing the level of discussion in Parliament, what kind of a discussion did we have on demonetization? One evening, Prime Minister comes and declares that yes, this is it. And believe me, the country went into a shock. Now, the entire political system in the Bharatiya Janata Party is scared. And this frustration is a net result of that. Because people are now going to give the pain the other side. First it was the pain from the government this side. Now the real pain is going to arrive. Ides of March is there.
I guess we have to wait for just one more month and we'll know exactly which way the pain is going to go. Let's not debate about that at the moment. But Professor Mukherjee, how do we improve, or how do we maintain the sanctity of an institution like the Parliament?
I think it's again by setting example. And now let's take the example of recently this thing which we've started calling surgical strikes. Sending our army across the line of control and all that, and then claiming that this is the first time it ever happened, nothing. I mean, there has been a tradition in this country that foreign affairs, relationships with other countries, issues with Pakistan are dealt with in a bipartisan manner, that is in a manner of consensus. We do not differ publicly on those issues. We try to put forward a united front. But suppose the government comes out, does something and then claims, the most important thing they want to claim is that they are the first ones who've ever done something like this. Then naturally it gets into a debate. Others who've been there before will say, no, of course not. We also did something quite similar, we didn't call it this. I mean, it all became more into an argument rather than a consolidated and combined statement vis-a-vis Pakistan, that this is how we feel about what you've been doing. So there was no attempt at consensus building. In fact, there was an attempt at showing the other person down. I think this is what I'm really worried about. And it's not just inside Parliament. Parliament is only a reflection of what you're doing outside. Demonetization, I personally am a critic, but that's beside the point. Did the Prime Minister or this government, but what government? It was only the Prime Minister's decision, we all know that. Did he make any attempt to build a consensus at any point within his own party, within his own cabinet, among economists? among the country within Parliament? No, it was a shock therapy. And when it started to become clear that people were reacting very negatively, instead of listening to that and saying, okay, we've done it with good intentions, let us see how we can mitigate. In fact, if you remember, in the first couple of weeks, most political parties said, let's see how you can do it better, we are not opposing.
Sure.
The discourse changed because the government was not willing to listen to that. They only wanted to say, we've done a great job, we are the first ones fighting corruption, black money will be abolished. So the discourse then started to change, and they were not willing to mitigate the hardships on the ground. They wanted to turn a blind. Imagine in Delhi there was somebody going around distributing laddus.
Sure.
To people standing in lines. I thought that was the ultimate insult.
Okay.
To people who were suffering, you are going to distribute laddus.
Let me get a quick round of closing comments from all my guests, starting with Sudesh Verma. Are you willing to shake hands with the opposition and carry the opposition forward and ensure that Parliament proceeding goes on smoothly?
Frank, let me first answer to a few issues which have been raised.
Very quickly, because I've got
where
very
I said
limited
that they
time.
keep changing
Very
the
limited
stand.
time.
Say something, do something else. It is in relation to the debate on demonetization, which had already started in Rajya Sabha. They realized that this debate was not going to pay them, so they changed their stand. You see, they started demanding things which the government could not accept. So how do you get into the debate? Mr. Tom Vadakkan said, my way or highway. This is what the opposition is doing. We never said. But for taking a policy decision like demonetization, we don't need to consult people because it entails high secrecy.
I just have 30 seconds to give all my guests because I'm out of time. Hold on.
You see,
Mr. Salim, Mr. Salim, a very limited time.
Okay.
I have a question for you. Do you believe that better floor management is the way forward?
It's one way within Parliament. But throughout the country, entire polity, I think you have a culture, political culture that is being destroyed. You have to develop that political culture, be it foreign policy, economic issues or social issues or even religious issues. Unless that culture is promoted, and instead of that you are destroying from one place to other.
Sure.
That's why the reflection is there in the Parliament.
Develop a culture across the country is what you're saying. Tom Vadakkan, your closing comments.
Well, the Prime Minister would have raised his stature if after that speech of his he would have gone up to Dr. Manmohan Singh. I'm sorry, I was not meaning to personally hurt you. He would have raised his own stature. But today, I've been getting calls from across the country. People are talking, and people, when they start talking, then the ballot is not too far.
Indeed. All right. And Professor Mukherjee, your final closing comments.
Party of governance has to learn to be more generous, magnanimous, large-hearted. You know, that's what governance is about. You cannot be narrow-minded. You cannot score small brownie points. You know, ruling, you have to learn how to rule. And I think that's where the BJP really has to take many, many more steps.
Indeed.
We have to learn how to become corrupt like the Congress. You want us to become corrupt like the Congress. That is what you are teaching us.
That's your choice.
That's the culture you represent.
Let's call it a wrap on that note, and let's not continue any further. Thank you so much, Professor Mridula, Mukherjee, Mohammad, Salim, Tom Vadakkan and Sudesh Verma for joining me on the program and putting things into perspective for us. That's all the time we have on this edition of The Big Picture. See you again next time.